Wonderful. All right, everybody, so we're going to get started in just a moment. So if everyone would take their seats, we're going to get started. There you go. Okay. Thank you all for coming to the Girls Speak Out 2019. I would first like to introduce Sophia, who is a member of the Metapanagia First Nation, New Brunswick, Canada, to read a land acknowledgement.
Thank you. I'd like us all to acknowledge and pay our deepest respects to the Lenape people, elders, and ancestors, past, present, and today. I acknowledge and offer deep gratitude to this Lenape land and water that support us, and we're gathered here right now together. This acknowledgement is this first step to understanding that we are all visitors on this territory we call New York City, and that it was unsurrendered land. This thought, however, does not mean anything until we give it meaning. Therefore, do not treat this as a script, but as the bare minimum we can do at this point as we stand with the spirits of the Lenape peoples. All my relations, taho.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you so much, Sophia. I would now like to introduce Her Excellency Amina Mohammed, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. She describes her position as simple: to build a world where every girl and boy has the tools to make their dreams a reality. Ms. Mohammed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and no excellencies. Dear girls, I'd like to first start by thanking the permanent missions of Canada, of Turkey, of Peru for making this all possible. This annual Girls Speak Out event is a wonderful occasion on the United Nations calendar, and especially today, Friday. It's a day in which we celebrate girls, their dreams, their talents, their very being. And also in that spirit, I want to welcome Isabella, Isabella C., Isabella M., Rose, Cecilia, Sophia, Emily, Clara, Ria, and all the girls who are celebrating the International Day of the Girl. You're all remarkable. You're inspiring. And so are girls across the world. You're leaders and entrepreneurs across the world, innovators and initiators of global movements, as we saw not so long ago with Greta here at the Climate Summit. You're creative and compassionate, you're sassy, and you're certainly very smart. The theme of this year's observance gets it just right: GirlForce, Unscripted, and Unstoppable. We've come together under the banner to celebrate the achievements by, with, and for girls since the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action 1995 and the Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1990. So it's great for me to see the mother of all women and girls just over there is our UN Women Executive Director, Mama Pumzili. You need to wave. Those landmarks have ushered in major progress and opportunities in many areas. At the same time, we still have a really long way to go. Each year, 12 million girls under 18 are married, 130 million girls worldwide are still out of school, and millions are suffering from violence, exploitation, and the impacts of armed conflict. It's outrageous, and it's absolutely unacceptable. And so now is the time for us to act, and we need to support you. The UN will continue to advocate for your rights and to support governments in providing you with a safe childhood, access to quality education and skills, and an environment where you can make informed decisions about your own lives. These are all basic human rights. Together, we'll continue to celebrate girls everywhere, work with you to break the boundaries so that you can take charge of your own future. We hear you, and we're committed to making every day the day of the girl. And let me say, this is very special for me, because I am the first of 5 girls. We didn't have any boys. And I have wonderful 4 daughters and a granddaughter. So it really is Day of the Girls.
Thank you.
You really don't want to hear me go on again.
Thank you so much for your words. Hi, everyone, and officially welcome to the International Day of the Girl, Girls Speak Out 2019. The Working Group on Girls and the Day of the Girl Summit team works to include girls and amplify our voices. We face our own challenges, and our rights should be recognized. Events like the Girls Speak Out give us an opportunity to share our reality and our revolutionary voices.
We are so excited to have you all here today. I'm Maria.
I'm Clara.
And I'm Emily, and we're girl advocates with the Working Group on Girls.
What it is like to be a girl changes based on where you live. We want to know what life is really like for girls all over the world, so we asked them, what does it mean to be a girl where you live? Today, you hear their answers.
I'm a girl and I'm proud to be a girl.
We girls are not always encouraged to be outspoken in the community. We girls are not allowed to step a foot out. We are always...
Olha, como eu, na região que eu moro, é pouco complicado porque
a victim of female genital mutilation, early marriage, sexy trafficking, and others can reach you. I mean, some of the prime perpetrators of crime against us are in higher positions of leadership of our communities.
They, like me, deserve to be free from insurgents.
A girl like me deserves to be respected.
I
make an impact where I go. Reflect on people, yes I know. People tend to ignore my words but forget that it changes things.
To me, being a girl in Australia means I'm constantly fighting to do my best.
Living in South Africa is revolutionary. Living in South Africa is empowering.
A girl like me, an African girl, faced with pressure, a byproduct of low opportunities, low parental and community mentorship. Nevertheless, I am not a child of a lesser God.
A girl like me is an independent, strong black girl.
I'm a girl who is a master chef. I'm a girl who has talents.
I say, I'm going to fly and shine someday.
A girl like me will never give up.
A girl like me is a girl with dream. Let her fly.
Girls are strong.
Girls are intelligent.
Girls are not different from boys. We are born equal.
We are girls at a crossroads.
When we turn in this direction, we experience happiness and joy.
When we turn in this direction, we travel with heartache and sorrow.
And all of the girls we have asked tell us that their lives are usually a mix of triumph and tragedy.
We want to look ahead towards a generation of equality, but there are so many gaps and obstacles that girls around the globe are still facing. Today, we share excerpts from the hundreds of stories we have received telling what changes still need to be made for girls. And we are not alone. We brought along 5 of our friends who are girl activists working in their community. They're going to tell you what you can do to fight with girls for girls. Today, we're going to show you why you should care about the issues that affect us.
A girl from South Africa shared this. Listen. A girl is the most wonderfully made creature I know so far in the whole world. From generation to generation, female creatures add more value to the world than anyone else has ever done.
It's so great to read these. A girl sent this one in from Lebanon. The society in which she lives considers the girl as a closed box that no one can dare to open until marriage.
Does anyone else have a story to share?
We have a story. I have one from Uganda. Being a girl still feels like an offense. She's looked at with an eagle's eyes for slight mistakes.
And I have a story from Kenya. Even if you don't want to learn how to cook or you don't want to get married, it's not your choice. It's your family's choice. But the boys are allowed to make their own choices.
I have questions from Peru. Girls, are you willing to lose your friends? To stop your education? Are you ready to be pregnant and take care of a young? Don't think that marriage is your escape to freedom, even if it provides you with your own private home and room.
I have a story from the Ivory Coast. We do not choose to be a girl, and it is a privilege to be. She is passionate. She illuminates joy wherever she goes. When you are born a girl, you are capable of everything.
It's wonderful to be girl from Uzbekistan because all roads are open. But only one thing, there are few girls and women in leadership positions in the government and in many other areas. But I guess they're waiting for me to grow up.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess there are some good things about being a girl.
Thank you for helping us share these stories.
There's so many more stories to tell. Our work to make girls' rights human rights is not over yet.
But there are so many gaps and challenges we have to conquer. There are so many roadblocks. There are so many ways to go. I don't know what to do.
It's okay. We can figure this out.
We can do it together.
We got your back.
Let's go.
I am a girl at a crossroads. On one side, I could live a life of silence and possibility of content. And on the other side is a life of hardship, fighting, adventure, excitement, and new experiences.
I am a girl at a crossroads, sometimes scared and confused about what I see happening around me. I'm always thinking of my happy place.
I am a girl at a crossroads. If I cut my hair too short, my family will look down on me. Am I happy being confined by my own culture? The answer is no.
I am a girl at a crossroads, scared to take either path, nervous for what is to come. Haters will only stand there, look at me and laugh.
I'm a girl at a crossroad. I don't know where to go, but I'll figure it out one way or another. I'm a girl at a crossroad. I can go either way. I've nothing but time and patience. I'm a girl at a crossroad. It is time I find my way.
I was royalty since birth, and I never doubted it. When times are rough, black girls will fight in armor.
Let them know how you are feeling.
I cannot leave out of my house without seeing my shadow, saying, go away, and then no, stay.
I'm hiding in my shadow. I don't want them to see that I am unworthy. I put up a front. I am the shadow.
Broken and shattered when times get shallow.
My expressions are real. Black girls, do you feel what I feel?
I don't believe it because society is untrustworthy.
Society kicks me and tells me black girls are
ghetto,
weak,
lazy,
dumb,
loud,
but we can stand out between everyone.
Your past doesn't define you. Scream every word like it's your own testimony.
We are
powerful,
natural,
important,
genius,
amazing,
confident.
Strength is everything.
We stand together.
Because birds of a feather flock together.
Girls are powerful in the world's healing.
We stand up after every beating.
Knowing that you are with girls, for girls, gives me strength and tells me you've earned our trust.
You can stand with us.
It takes
sacrifice,
honesty,
representation,
strength,
empowerment,
being real,
defeating our shadows,
earning our trust,
not by force, but because you want to,
listening to our stories,
taking action,
making us secure.
I failed an exam and he told me go look for a man who says no to education because he lacks visions and aspirations. Now I have to stay in these boundaries. Why?
I am just a girl.
And when I tried talking back, a nice bump I got on my head. When has speaking up become disrespect? I'm told talking back to the elders spelled out wrong, but I meant no harm. And when I want to walk freely, I'm tied back between the chains of faith and religion. But the prophet always talked about manhandling. I am bound around the hijab, covered in dreams, but this is my reality. I am just a girl. I am 15, soon forced into womanhood. Just because I bleed once a month does not mean I am ready to be a mother. With a sour heart, craving new art, I remain a Muslim girl.
I looked up at the starry night and smiled. It was a beautiful winter's night. It was around 10 p.m. and my house was crowded with relatives. So I decided I needed a break and some fresh air. As I was walking in the park, I caught a glimpse of a tall man walking towards me. As the man got closer, I realized it was my father. "Miriam, what are you doing in the park this late?" he questioned with a frown. Just wanted to relax in the park a bit. Why? You shouldn't be out here this late. It's not safe. Not safe for me. A girl, I realized. That one line shattered the temporary bubble of peace and relaxation I was sitting in. The enjoyable aspect of everything around me was no longer mine to claim. I couldn't sleep that night. The realization of how freedom was more of a concept than a reality for me haunted me. But I couldn't hold my father accountable, for he was caged in the same patriarchy that caged me.
You hit her with sticks. You nearly broke all her bones. You never heard her soulful moans, didn't say a word, or if she said, it went unheard. The beautiful dreams that she had lovingly woven were so cruelly ripped, for she was a caged bird. Or as you didn't know, she was a thunderstorm you'd so fiercely stirred.
Girl, come on, hurry up. Okay, girls, listen up. Being a girl where I live means having balance and control of one's emotions, which are essential to ensure that we are happy and fulfilled people. But being a girl is not a test. It is not a job, nor is it something that you will carry with you forever. Being a girl is a gift, and a real girl knows how to live by her wisdom. This is my story, the story of a young African girl. With tears, I narrate the ill fortunes that betide me, only because I am born the way I am, a girl. Who will listen to me? Who will believe me? Who? For centuries, my likes have crossed this part, but no light seems to appear at the end of the tunnel. In my country, Nigeria, girls are accepted into the families as second fiddle at best, but in most cases a curse. While our counterparts, the male, are heralded, hailed, and pampered with all the riches they could afford. Under these circumstances, the girl does not have a right to be respected or protected, but rather subjected to much torture and humiliation under the guise of systems, traditions, and customs. Imagine coming from a family of 4, all girls, the kinds of stigma and humiliation that we and our parents had to pass through. But million thanks to my father, who never considered the challenges and sponsors us to the best schools he can afford.
Being a girl where I live is hearing men call women girls, looking this way and that on the subway and street because sexist, bigoted men think they can stare at me like a lion stares at me. Learning to punch because girls and women are targeted just meeting for lunch. Calling myself a feminist at 10 years of living because this world, our world, needs everyone to fight for it. Disagreeing with fairy tales that say girls are damsels in distress who need a man to save them, especially if they're wearing a pretty dress. Reading about awesome girls because a girl can do as much as a boy can. Asking my abuser, my so-called father, to respect my wishes, and hearing back no because I am your father, but I know he's saying no because I am a man. Seeing Coco, Naomi, Venus, and Serena slay at the US Open, and me thinking that will be me one day, you'll see, knowing I am amazing, no matter what silly, closed-minded men say, think, and do. Saying, step off, this is my home, New York City. This is me, Girl NYC, and we are diversity.
My name is Taylin, and I'm 9 years old. I live in Rustov, and I come from a Christian home. Girls in our street are not allowed to walk in the street at night. The only reason we're not allowed to be out at night is they shoot in our street. I cannot walk to the shops anymore. I have to carry a tennis bat with me. When I'm asleep, I hear gunshots and police everywhere. It's dangerous in our street. You have to carry a bat or a knife to protect yourself. One morning, a man shot a couple. The lady survived, but the man didn't. That's how it feels to be a girl where I live.
In a nutshell, being assaulted, abused, molested, neglected, and judged, but pretending to be fine and perfect simultaneously, is what it is to be a girl in today's world.
Wait. But even the most unyielding situations have a fault line, a loophole in a law, a crack in a rocky terrain through which a shrub peeps and dares to grow. So we squeeze everything we can and a little more, and we make it to the moon, to the Olympics, to the top of the corporate ladder, and to the chairs in the courtroom bench.
As a girl, I feel loved by my friends and those who surround me.
My community encourages me and supports me in what I do.
I feel so confident and important. I educate girls in my community about being a girl.
I'm proud to have been born in a community where the girl is respected.
I'm like the torchbearer for the future of girls who will be born in this community.
I have a story from South Africa. Home. A place considered to be the most hype, vibrant, and easygoing experienced by a teenage girl. A girl who didn't know how much her surroundings broke her into pieces and re-sculptured her to form the young female we see today. A place where girls who wear tight, short skirts are viewed as prettier and sexier than those who wear their skirts to cover their knees and reach their ankles. Where respect is granted to a girl child only if she follows the basic rules of society. A society where private school kids are seen as a walking ATM. Where first impressions do last and what you see becomes what you get. Where hate that creates room for jealousy, pride, and unpeaceful days for the current and upcoming generations. Only because of one root of conflict, a whole generation suffers. But with all that comes one heartbeat, 2 eyes, 2 strong legs, and a brain full of potential and knowledge. A young girl who wants to strive and become the best she can possibly be. Beyond the ordinary successes of a township girl, beyond the expectation of her parents, and beyond what they consider successful. All because of how it felt to be a girl where she lived. The high gradient of the hill she has to push through and endure made her what she is today, and she just wants to do better. I know what Naledi means when she talks about endurance. Girls struggle every day to find solid footing as leaders, if they can manage to reach those positions at all. Society tells us we are unfit to lead and expects us to fail when we do not lead in the same way men and boys do. Gender stereotypes push girls from leadership positions, and when we do speak our minds, we fear being punished for it. Girls also feel pressure to be perfect in order to be taken seriously as leaders. These experiences are compounded by the fact that institutionally, there are few opportunities for girls to lead or connect with leaders. Even at the United Nations, where girls' rights are a frequent topic of conversation, I am regularly the only girl in the room. This puts an immense amount of pressure on the few girls sitting at the table and is a detriment to the entire global community. We don't have to go far to see the empty seats where girl leaders should have been. For this International Day of the Girl, Tsega Miak was supposed to speak about how she leads her community in Ethiopia, but her visa was denied by the US government, depriving us all of her experience and vision for girls' rights. Her absence is a failure of the system and not her leadership. For girls to achieve and thrive in leadership positions, we need support systems put into place, but we also need to value and commit to the unique experiences of girls. If you're serious about supporting and standing with girl leaders like Tsega Miak, here is what you can do. We need to foster an environment of dignity and respect between youth leaders and call out language, actions, and policies which cause girls to believe their perspectives and skills are less valuable than their male peers. We need to create safe spaces for girls to talk about their experiences, hone their skills, and develop strong intergenerational partnerships. We need governments and community leaders to empower women in leadership positions, to design girl-centered leadership programs, and create policies that value gender equity in leadership. And girls, we need to move past our self-doubt, support one another, and remind ourselves that no matter what society may tell us, girls can and do lead. Now, I'd like to introduce His Excellency Feridun Hadi Olu, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Permanent Mission of Turkey to the United Nations.
Madam Deputy Secretary General, dear girls, it gives me great pleasure to join this gathering once again this year. Happy International Day of the Girl Child to you all. Together with Canada and Peru, Turkey is proud to mark the 7th year of this International Day with this annual event. The name of the event, Girls Speak Out, resonates with what we wish and need to achieve. That is to enable the participation of girls as true stakeholders in our discussions. I thank each and every one of you for being here today and making your voices heard. Dear Emily, I listened carefully to your words that portray how girls struggle to find solid footing as leaders. You are absolutely right when you say gender stereotypes and the pressure to be perfect in order to be taken seriously push girls away from leadership positions. If we are sincere in our efforts to raise a generation that will be the successful, courageous and confident woman of the future, our goal should be to equip every girl with the courage and skills to exercise the power of her voice. Leadership is knowing who you are, what you believe, and being able to express your beliefs effectively to influence others. Girls' everyday relationships with friends, family, and peers should be seen as leadership opportunities. Leadership isn't reserved for those few individuals who have formal roles, such as presidents, ministers, or company CEOs. It is rather a way of life that every girl can live every day. To achieve our aims, we must first recognize the challenge. It is still true that in many parts of the world, when referring to a strong performance, you hear them say, doing something like a man. This shows the misperception of women and girls' abilities. Women and girls, besides many other skills, are great at empathizing, at building relationships, empowering others, tuning into people's needs, and balancing a number of responsibilities. These are skills that are great assets for leadership. I would like to give few examples from my own country. In Turkey, women actively participate in all walks of life and take their rightful role in decision-making mechanisms at every level. For instance, in the Turkish Foreign Ministry, 35% of career diplomats are women. We have 63 women ambassadors, most of whom are in active duties all around the world. In my permanent mission alone, almost 70% of my staff are females. These are the future ambassadors of Turkey. But this is not enough. We should do more. Dear girls, before I conclude, I wish to underscore an issue that is personally very sincere to me. That is the need to ensure and encourage more and more girls' participation in education pertaining to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This is where the future lies. So this is where girls can and should thrive to make a difference. Thank you once again for your energy and brilliance.
Thank you so much for your words. We are with girls.
We are with girls.
We are for girls.
We are for girls.
When I was born, I inherited my mother's tongue. So I began painting my world with monosyllables of musical notes.
And my mother's smile, her rose-colored lips stretched taut to prevent any objections from slipping out.
In Vietnamese culture, a woman's words should be carefully chosen, saccharine, scarce. Too many words at once and you are considered gluttonous.
So as a child, I learned to keep quiet, to exchange my curiosity for complacency.
It made no sense in forming opinions when all they would do is gather at the bottom of your throat until you felt suffocated.
I thought I might save myself the discomfort of having to suppress original thought by learning how to have it in the first place.
And then?
I was told to speak up by faces motivated by beliefs divergent from my familiar doctrine. Suddenly, words held a power I was now worthy of yielding.
So I began to speak them in record scratches and murmurs. I began to backflip through the labyrinth of language that I once feared because for once I realized that someone was listening.
To be a girl in America means someone is listening. I may have inherited the body of so many women before me, but I refuse to follow the instruction manual it was packaged with.
I compose my own narrative now that I found buried under years of tradition.
And it will not be returned.
To be a refugee girl means that we are always under constant threat of eviction because we cannot afford to pay the rent of our house. I'm afraid of the moment when we become homeless. We sit on the road with our baggage and watch the careless, happy kids playing peacefully and discriminating neighbors, not caring about our suffering. What would it be like? I might then accept remarrying my ex so that I can have shelter with my unemployed mother, miserable siblings, and my grandmother who has cancer. But the suffering with my ex might be less suffering than living in the streets. But I'm recently feeling like I'm a bird imprisoned inside a cage, while all the other birds get to fly and enjoying the freedom outside the cage. And I can obviously just smell the freedom, happiness, and joy, but I cannot run away and enjoy it because I am imprisoned inside my refugee identity, my female gender, my divorced girl status, my financial situation, my fatherless destiny, and my Syrian origins. But I always dreamed of being a world-renowned doctor. I dream of being self-dependent so that I can take care of my appearance, buy fashionable clothes, wear makeup, and spread my long, silky hair. I really want to make my sacrificing mother proud of me so I can repay some of our debts to her.
In a photograph, I see girls strung together like beads, their eyes cast down like the sun's tired rays.
They stand below hollow roofs and bamboo walls, imprisoned by the grasp of violence. A child loses her mother to a burning village.
Another watches her mother stripped by knives. They run with the wind between their fingers and the sun above their cheeks to escape the grip of angry men.
And now they string their arms around each other's necks, casting hopes through their small smiles.
They ask for little, a book, a pencil, or a weapon of knowledge.
They spend their days quietly, wrapped in tents, laughing only when the world holds on tightly.
Girls across the world, bound by steel, not thread. We are here for them all. We must be.
We must be. In our society, life is not easy for an orphaned girl. Many times, I got bullied and lost my self-confidence. That is why I moved to Tashkent, which is capital of Uzbekistan, with my aunt. The situation was better there, and I made some friends. I started to discover my own path. I knew that I liked math and science. I started to discover my passion, and I realized the IT field is something that I want. But there I faced obstacles too. Everyone around me kept saying that the STEM field is not for girls. Girls should do housekeeping or be teachers. And that is what motivated me to do my best. I convinced myself that girls can do what boys can do, and they can achieve even better goals than boys can.
I have a story from Singapore. When I was about 10 years old, my mother told me about her friend from Singapore who would come to stay with us and help us. Perhaps she hinted that he could become family. Though I did not know exactly what she meant, I thought it might be a good thing to have a father. When he was in Vietnam, he would come from school and fetch me from school just how like all the other fathers did. We spent Lunar New Year together, traveled around Vietnam, and even visited water parks. Looking back, I realized that my stepfather had only wanted to bring my mother to Singapore. He had not expected my mother to bring me along. He turned aggressive and shouted at me the moment I arrived in Singapore. What anchored me to my sanity was the care and love for my mother and family back in Singapore. I've now been in Singapore for 6 years. I experienced my mother's mental breakdown, her admission to a mental institution. I had witnessed violence between my mother and stepfather. I was left homeless and at risk of not being able to complete my education. As a foreigner at age 17, I was told I was too old to be admitted to a children's home and too young to be admitted to a women's shelter. I'm grateful to be admitted to Good Shepherd Center, a women's shelter who had made an exception to admit me.
There can be two sides of immigration for girls around the world. On one hand, immigration can be positive for girls and help them leave unsafe environments. On the other hand, like in the last story, it can lead girls into more vulnerable situations. In the United States, we have seen the impact of migration on families at the border. Children have been taken from parents, detained in cruel conditions, and live under the near constant threat of deportation. Girls in refugee camps are especially vulnerable to early and forced marriage, gender-based violence, and a dangerous lack of health care. This needs to change. Girls should have safe places to go, like transition homes or shelters, designed to address their needs as girls as they begin their new lives. Immigration officers should be taught to recognize the signs of child trafficking and forced marriage of children. It is imperative we address the gender-specific issues that arise for girls experiencing migration and provide them with safe and supportive ways to escape a dangerous environment in order to build a new life. Now I'd like to introduce Isabella C. from the Bella Asbug Leadership Institute to talk about her activism for immigrant rights. Isabella will be speaking in English and Spanish. To hear the translation, please use the headset in front of you.
Thank you for the introduction. Over the past 5 years, while I was volunteering weekly at my local hospital, teaching immigrant rights in English and Spanish, and writing bilingual articles for my local newspaper on issues affecting Latinx people in America, I realized the government's role in dehumanizing girls I know, tossing them aside, using them as scapegoats, and eliminating their existence. This past summer, I had the privilege of participating in the Leadership and Debate program at the Bella Abzug Leadership Institute, BALI for short. Here, I met a group of diverse girls from all over the New York metropolitan area. A core value taught by BALI is intersectionality, the idea that gender, race, ethnicity, economic class, and even citizenship status can all affect how people are treated and oppressed in society. This summer, BALI brought in a local immigrant rights activist group, the New Sanctuary Coalition. Coincidentally, an article I had written was about that coalition. It was about a Salvadorian woman who was undocumented. Her story brings up the inherent challenges in protecting immigrant girls. This is her story. Ella sostenía las manos de su...
She was holding her children's hand, her daughter's hand, who was 5 years old. She had a husband who was also without papers, but he abused her. She never called the police because she was scared of being detained or deported. The woman was separated from her daughter after an ICE agent discovered that she was undocumented, despite the fact that her daughter is a citizen. She talked about her abuse at the hands of guards working at detention centers. 8 months later, she was reunited with her daughter when the woman began to hug her child, her daughter. Her daughter cried and spoke to her mother. She said that the guards said to the daughter, "Don't hug, don't touch."
Immigration affects young girls and their mothers. Girls in detention centers are often subject to physical and psychological abuse. As a volunteer at a hospital, I see the necessity of proper medical treatment and access. One patient who was a young girl told me she was hesitant to seek care because of the fear of deportation. Deaths of immigrant girls have occurred in detention centers because of the lack of uniform sexual abuse prevention policies, overcrowding, lack of sanitary products, and simple supplies like blankets. Policymakers must address the subsequent medical and mental health problems of immigrant girls and encourage treatment without threat of deportation, to prioritize health of girls over political agendas. There is the need for countries to grant more visas to support victims of abuse. For example, in the US, an average of 10,000 U visas are given out annually with a processing time of 1 year or more, which leaves years where victims are fearing for their lives. At-risk girls deserve to be granted visas with shortened processing times. I call on the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on the Violence Against Children and the Committee to end all forms of discrimination against women to address the safety of immigrant and migrant girls. One thing everyone here can do is permanently change the rhetoric in which we talk about girls and immigration. We must eliminate the words illegal and alien when referring to human beings in discussion, written law, and immigration documentation. Deferring in policies is one thing, but the dehumanization through rhetoric is unacceptable. Necesitamos derechos.
We need to address all girls and women and migrants on an equal footing, and not as if we are superior to girl and women migrants. Citizenship doesn't define a person's value. As an American of Honduran roots and as a second-generation migrant, I am fortunate enough to know a dreamer from Mexico who enjoys some kind of protection. And I know someone else who translates for families without papers. And I know someone who emigrated from the United States from Honduras with 4 children and worked a great deal to support them, despite the fact that I myself am not an immigrant. I know that all of you are important. Immigrant children deserve human rights. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you, Isabella. I'd now like to introduce Ms. Annika Knudsen, the Chief of the Sexual and Reproductive Health Branch of UNFPA.
Thank you. And thank you, Isabella. And thank you, girls. Thank you for speaking out about girls' struggles and triumphs as migrants, and for the work you have done, Isabella, and many more with you, and are still doing to shed light on the lives in a very harsh reality, but also the liberation of Latin American girls and women in the United States. Around the world, there are around 750 million internal migrants, and an additional 250 million international migrants, 1 billion of them in total. Millions of these migrants are girls who move for economic opportunities, for family reasons, including marriage, for the promise of better living conditions, including access to public services as health, education, and social protection, but also to escape violence, conflict, and the breakdown of civil institutions. When I was thinking about what I was going to say today, I was thinking about the young girls in my life. Ida, 9, Moa, 6, Vilma, 1, my precious granddaughters. And I tried to imagine what it would be like if they were on the move in the world today. I couldn't. For many girls, that migration is forced. For many, it's a choice, but not really a choice, because they had no other choice than to go. And for a privileged few, it's truly of their choosing. But for all of them, migration brings risks and opportunities, alters their personal and their family narratives. Migration brings risks and opportunities for all of them, and has implication for whether and how they can exercise their rights, including their sexual and reproductive rights, their right to integrity, their right to their own choices. This year marks a special year, an important milestone in the development agenda. It's 25 years ago since the Cairo Conference, International Conference on Population and Development, ICPD as we call it, where 179 governments adopted its program of action happened. And why is this important to mention here? Because that program of action stated that the human rights of the girl child are an inalienable, integral, and indivisible part of universal human rights. For the past 25 years, UNFPA has been working hand in hand with governments and civil society organizations, UN agencies, and academia to improve the lives of marginalized adolescent girls, to accompany them in their journey to adulthood, especially those at the greatest risk. The greatest risk of unintended pregnancy, sexual violence, and devastating harmful practices such as child marriage and female genital mutilation. Let me end by saying that to support migrant girls and girls more generally, we need to prepare and equip them before they migrate with education, life skills, knowledge of their rights, and IDs. Just think for a moment what it would be like not to have an ID, what that would mean in your life. We need to build safety nets for them, both social and economic, such as peer groups and mentors, safe corners, access to jobs, credit and health coverage, and quality services that are truly responsive to their needs. And not just what we as adults think are their needs, but what you say are your needs as girls. We need to focus on the most isolated and vulnerable migrant girls, such as domestic workers, child brides, and sexually exploited girls, and fill critical evidence gaps, working to age and sex desegregate migration data. Girls on the move face a triple jeopardy of being young, being female, and being migrants. But we believe in the power of girls to take control of their bodies, to write their own stories, and to shape their own journeys. And I promise you, I will never forget that I once was a girl at Crossroads. And as an older woman today, I promise you that I will never be defeated. Your struggle is our struggle. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are for Isabella. We are with Isabella.
Always has to have a baby boy. But their mother was pregnant and she gave birth to a baby girl. Seeing this, the father attempts many things to kill the baby. But the mother convinces him that she will kill the baby. The father is happy knowing that the baby is no more, but only the mother knows how to save the child. Instead, she gives her baby to her mother. Each day she visits the little child. When the child was 4, the father found out that she was still alive. He attempts many things to kill the baby, but the mother is smart. She captures these moments on camera and gives them to the police, who arrest him. Again, the baby girl is safe. But not long after, the mom and dad had a son. The baby girl has to stay with grandpa and grandma. She never gets love anymore from her mother or father. And even at home, she is tortured by her aunt. To this day, her dad hasn't seen her. But you have. I am the girl of the story, and this is what it means to be a girl in our society.
What is the point of us living in this world where there is no respect for us?
Why only a girl, not a boy, is subjected to this inhuman treatment?
Are we not human beings?
If a girl child survives, then also the world is not a safe place for her.
When she is a teenager, will she be subjected to harassment and abuse?
Where should we go for our safety?
Has anyone the courage to give us questions to the answers as we put forward?
I'm told to be quiet because girls don't raise a voice. When a boy in a corner touches my tiny breast, I stay quiet because girls don't raise a voice. A man brushes his hand against me in a crowded place, and I stay quiet because girls don't raise a voice. I'm on my menstrual cycle and get beaten by my husband, but I stay quiet because girls don't raise a voice. He tied a belt around my neck and tried to strangle me, only because I couldn't afford the dowry asked by my groom's family. I stay quiet because girls don't raise a voice. Girls are continuously victims of acid attacks. Baby girls are aborted inside the womb. Let me begin with myself. I'm the only daughter to my parents, and my mother often talks about how my father wanted a son. Although he didn't stay with us, he had a new family, he had a son. And it's so sad to know that we aren't a part of it. I felt so unlucky when I got to learn that my father left my mother and I when I was just 25 days old. But I guess it's only because I was born as a girl. You love her as a wife. You love her as a sister. You love her as a mother. But why not a daughter?
Do I feel safe when I walk the streets of India, even in the middle of a bright, sunny day?
No, I don't. Because when I walk alone, there are 2 pairs of eyes following at me. Every bend and every turn, 2 pairs of eyes.
All I do is walk straight ahead and look down, wondering, why do people do that? Have they never seen a girl before?
Everything started from my childhood. My father always drank, beat, and insulted my mother. When once again my father was beating my mother, I stood up for her. But it made him even more angry, and he hit me hard in the face. After which, I went to the hospital and my ear was operated on. My father always molested me and threatened if I told anyone about it. He sent me to liquor stores and forced me to buy him alcohol. I was little, a 5-year-old girl when he first told me to buy him alcohol. And if I didn't, he threatened to snatch my hair. Then, out of fear, I had urination, for which my father beat me and drove me out of the house.
Nothing changed. My mother was 6 months pregnant, so she could not work. But someone had to feed the family and pay taxes. So she got a job as a cleaner. One night, my pregnant and tired mother came home when she realized there was no more food left. That night, my dad came home, drunk and hungry as always. He began to yell at my mom and ask her for food, so she gave him the remaining hot tea and bread. But he got mad and threw it all away. He began to beat and blame my mom, telling her that it is her fault, that she does not work well enough, and that this is not her child in her womb. He began to kick my mother several times in the stomach. She fell and lost consciousness. That night, my mother had a miscarriage.
Once, my mother was putting me to bed. It was almost midnight, and my father wasn't home. And then, he came home, but not alone. He brought a whore with him and led her to the adjacent room, to the one where I was sleeping. Mom heard everything. Me too. She cried all night long. The next day, she told her brother what had happened, to which he replied, "What's wrong with this? Everyone goes through it. Bear it." The saddest part was that my mother, the victim, was vulnerable from all sides, especially when even the closest people do not want to accept and solve the problem.
Now, I'm 15 years old, and I'm so amazed that my mother and I are still alive. And now just think of the many thousands of millions of unhappy females who get abused every day throughout their lives. This is what it means and how it feels to be a girl, bride, wife, mother, and daughter where I live.
While there are some stories of violence against girls that end with justice for the survivor, not all girl stories are the same. Violence against girls is a global epidemic, often disregarded by those in power. Girls' experiences of violence are so often ignored that it is made invisible in everyday life. Sexual assault, child marriage, sexual harassment, and all forms of sexual violence take away a girl's ability to make choices about her body and life. So do forms of violence against girls like emotional abuse that do not leave visible scars but are no less impactful. These are all a violation of a girl's human rights. We need to learn how to recognize and acknowledge the signs and symptoms of physical and emotional abuse. We need to provide resources and places of safety for girls to talk with each other and with adults about the hardships we face in our lives. More than anything, we need to believe girls and every survivor when they say they have experienced abuse, violence, and harassment, and then work together as a community to help girls heal. I would now like to introduce Isabella M. from the Girl Scouts of the United States, who will speak about her activism against gender-based violence.
Miwe, hello. In the creation story of the Kauai Indians, there is a girl, Menil, the Moon Maiden. Menil was once a mortal who lived among the people and taught them how to live. One night, Mukat, the creator, forced her into a sleep so deep that she could not cry out or struggle against him. For his wickedness, Mukat was banished and Menil was silent. The people begged Menil to speak until finally she sang them a song and they at once understood her. I wonder what it was that Menil sang to the people that made them come to know her so clearly. It was Menil who gave the people the arts, the invaluable gift of storytelling. Stories shape identity. They can call up a great amount of strength in a people, but they can also be the unwitting tools of oppression. My grandfather did not want to be Indian. He passed on to my mother the message ingrained in his psyche throughout boarding school. He told her, "The further away you are from being Indian, the closer you are to God." No one is going to tell the story of a young Kauai girl for her. She must do it herself. I like to think that it was Menil who inspired me to write the play, Menil and Her Heart. But I know who this play is really written for. It is for Jessica May Orozco, Jojo Boswell, Aisha Nightpipe, Savannah LaFontaine Graywind, faceless names of the missing and murdered. It is for my little cousin Maya and my sister, Sophia. It is for all the women and girls who stand and fight beside me, performance after performance, to share the forgotten stories of their stolen sisters, to end the silence. Menil and Her Heart tells the story of a young Indigenous girl who was not taken, but instead must make the choice of whether or not she will continue the fight. A fight that right now, she largely has to brave alone. In the United States, 84% of Native women will experience violence in their lifetimes. They go missing and are murdered at rates 10 times higher than the national average. Despite this, 95% of these cases go undocumented by national news media. Legislation has failed because it does not exist. It is time to tell the stories that aren't being told. Menil in Her Heart was my way to bring this truth forward. Thus far, the play has reached over 800 individuals and the cast has grown to 20 people, all non-professional actors, but that's the beauty of it. It's Native voices telling Native stories. It has grown so far beyond that first performance for my Girl Scout Gold Award, where in a small gathering hall was converted into a theater space and over 100 individuals crammed in to see the premiere show. Following each performance, we held a talkback and collected surveys to engage audience members and assess impact. One audience member shared something that particularly struck me, something that Native writer Leslie Mormon Silko said first. We don't heal by forgetting. We heal by remembering. These stories are about the survival of our culture and our people. We will continue to bring this play up and down the state of California throughout the course of this year and next. The ultimate goal? Legislation, global legislation. And we are not alone in this fight. Native State Assemblyman James Ramos is actively pushing for legislation for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in California. But it cannot be that Indigenous girls stand alone in the fight for their stolen sisters. You must join us in taking action now. We are only in the first stages of understanding the magnitude of this issue, but I know that we cannot do this alone. This violence is not isolated to one nation. Indigenous girls across the globe have been under attack for centuries. Violence against girls is used as a war strategy to demoralize, eradicate, and destroy Indigenous populations across the globe. This taking of our girls is reflective of a larger taking, a taking of land, culture, language, identity. Indigenous girls are seen and treated as less than human, and because of this, they bear the worst horrors of this silent and forgotten war. Global leaders have a responsibility to end it. Open your eyes, because humanity connects all of us. If you go back far enough, we all have Indigenous roots. It amazes me how the community came together to support and partake in this journey, but it makes sense. Because Menyul in her heart creates an opportunity for people to speak their truth. And when people speak their truth, they become visible. I choose to speak through my art, to heal through my art. Though fiery hatred rises up inside me when I think of the missing and murdered, this play was not born out of anger. Healing cannot come from hate, only from love and resiliency. Now I know what Menyul sang to the people that made them come to know her so clearly. She sang them her story, a story that we need to listen to. It is all too easy to ignore the violence Indigenous girls face, to say our suffering doesn't exist, that we don't exist. But we do. Miigwech, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabella. Now, I'd like to introduce Her Excellency Dr. Phumzile Mlambo Nkuka, Undersecretary General and UN Women Executive Director.
Thank you very much. What do I have to say after Isabella? Truly amazing. Happy Day of the Girl. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership, your insights. Thank you for having each other's back. Thank you for caring for the world that you want to create. The beauty of being a girl is that there's a lot of you. Cute as anything, strong as anything, clever as anything. And you are the largest contingency of a group with a purpose. Out of the 1.8 billion young people in the world, 900 million of them are teenage girls. That's a lot of girls. You have purpose, no vested interest in the status quo as it is. You have no contracts, except maybe for your mobile phone, which you need. You are not caught up in structures and institutions. You can speak your truth. You don't own guns. You also have the freedom and the capacity to demand of us to care for you and to be with you but old enough to take responsibility and to lead. And when you lead, stuff happens. So you are in a uniquely privileged age, and it passes. Because when you become older than this, dynamics around you change. It's a fleeting moment that you need to use and use effectively. Because who can resist you? Who can resist you when you speak your truth? But you need to use the numbers, and we need to be there to support you and to provide you with the platforms that you need in order to make the changes that the world needs. Your truth is just as strong, just as powerful as anyone else's. So next year, when the UN system is facilitated by UN Women, we'll be marking the 25 years of the most comprehensive agreement that exists in the world that enshrines gender equality, the Beijing Declaration. We will be handing over to you because you're so capable. Who are we to want to continue? So that you can take this struggle forward for gender equality and bring about the changes that we need in the world. Generation equality is you. You have got what it takes. You have shown us. I just want to ask you a question now, and I need a real strong answer. Who ruled the world? Girls. Who ruled the world? Girls. Who ruled the world? Girls. There you have it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are with Isabella.
We are with Isabella.
We are for Isabella.
We are for Isabella.
I may wear a skirt or I may wear some shorts, but no matter what, you can't deny it. I'm a girl.
I may have short hair or I may have long hair, but I'm still definitely a girl.
I may be smart or I may be not. I'm still a true girl.
I may play the flute or I may play the tuba, but I can still be a groovy girl.
I may watch the news, or I can bury myself in fiction, but I don't have to stay in reality to be a girl.
I may be writing this poem, or I may be appearing at a masquerade ball. I'm still a girl.
Sometimes I feel amazed. On one side, girls are said to be goddesses and be worshipped. On the other side, girls are equally being tortured and raped. In my country, superstition is still prevailing. The one who is mainly victimized of this social evil is the girl child. Many girls are offered to the temples as duki to get the holy approval from God. This causes the girl to suffer from physical abuse.
Raised in a family where violence reigned supreme, the chattering glasses, screams, and shouts from my mother soon became my alarm clock. Every single morning, without fail, she would be beaten up on routine for any mistake or no mistake at all. I couldn't stand it anymore watching my mom being beaten on a daily basis. What if I was somehow the cause? I started entertaining the idea of running away from home. It seemed logical, the idea appealing, the thought safe. Education became a problem, though I would encourage myself that I needed to study hard to have a dreamy, peaceful family in the future. I could barely concentrate. Tears became my embrace. Loneliness, my best friend. Loneliness, my best friend. I would encourage myself that I needed to study hard. Eventually, my parents separated. The teenage in me was conflicted. My heart so much wanted to hit the roof and celebrate. The dependent in me smelled the coffee, and my mother wasn't able to raise enough to either feed or pay my school fees. Papa was not going to do it. Absolutely not. No amount of pressure, court orders, or sympathy would make him do it. I have seen it all at this moment. Life has schooled me, and school shaped me. I no longer fear. I can stand on my 2 feet, strong and brave.
I also remember my father, who lived in town, had to come for me deep in the village if I were to continue with my education. My first day of school was really a terror. I'd given in to the shame as it got the better of me. One language from the central region, Luganda, was used by both the teachers and the pupils. Speaking English meant bragging. I, being a child from the West Nile, Luganda was like a cultural shock immediately on sight. I approached my teacher in my local language, which drove both the teachers and the pupils into laughter. I felt ashamed, discouraged, and wished to cease my existing. My father always being at work and my mom working a ways distance created a very big ocean between them and me. So I kept everything to myself, having no sister to talk to. Then I hated school as it hated me, which made both school and home absurd. As time went on, discouragements arose from every part of my life. My parents told me that I would never succeed, and my relatives predicted of my getting pregnant before completing school. I felt tired, angry, and hatred towards myself, which developed into a psychological disorder, which almost caused me to commit suicide several times. Being a girl became a nightmare. The past haunted me, the present denied me, while the future couldn't be seen. All the dreams I had ceased due to fear. But as the saying goes, every cloud has a silver lining. One day, I decided to take charge as a young girl. I said no to my situation and swore to prove what the world thought of me was wrong.
She came home with a bruised face, a swollen eye, and a torn lip.
Her bleeding forehead tainted, her complexion gone all red.
Her worried mother in torments cries, and to the hospital rushes her mourning child.
After huge expenditure and a long time, she regained her almost gone smile.
Now she is back in school, but still, no one cares to know what got her in that place or who should be punished.
Her fellow male classmate did this. He didn't think she was useful in school.
But everyone seems to agree, because
That's how it has always been.
But she could have been dead like many others, or permanently handicapped. However, she is okay. But for how long?
That's the price many girls pay for going to school. A whole punishment on its own.
If we stood up as one voice to fight,
the girl child would be more certain of her rights.
I have a story from Pakistan. A few years back, I suffered and fought for my dignity and self-respect as I was learning private tuition with a male teacher. I still remember those unsafe touches which used to make me feel uncomfortable, like holding on my waist, pinching my cheeks, and sometimes touching my lips. Those days were like nightmare for me. I was not able to speak against it, nor was I able to share it with others, even with my mother. I was going through a situation most teenagers usually get into, depression, but my mother saved me. One day, she came to me and asked me about tuition. I couldn't control my emotions. I shared everything with her and fell on my knees and started crying as loudly as I could. She came to me and hugged me very tightly and said, "You are the strongest person. If you want, you can win this world, and daughter, I am with you." And that was enough for me to build my courage. That day in tuition, when he was trying to touch me, I bit him in his hand and hit him with my elbow. I called my mother, and he was no more my tuition teacher. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my story. Not just mine, but the story of many girls. Stories like Namrata's show the importance of listening to girls and supporting us. Education is a powerful tool to help girls find and use their voices. This needs to happen in a safe learning environment that allows girls to thrive. Girls in schools still experience discrimination, violence, and abuse because they are girls. Education is also often seen as more valuable for boys, and in family where money is tight, preference is given to sons to attend school over daughters. Lack of education decreases girls' future income and health and increases the likelihood that we will experience trafficking and exploitation. This reality needs to change. Education gives girls like us confidence to live our lives and speak out about our rights. More resources should be available to make education attainable for all children, regardless of their gender. Conversations also need to be started and continued about the necessity of education for girls. Most critically, education is a basic human right, and girls like me, like us, deserve to learn that our voices matter so we can become leaders and forces for change. Now I'd like to introduce Rose from Girls for Gender Equity to talk about her activism for girls' education.
Thank you for the introduction. She has lots of dreams. She wanna be a star. She wanna make movies, directing all the parts. It's really inspiring, 'cause we don't share the heart. I'd rather not dream, 'cause some dreams ain't worth the time. Some dreams ain't worth the crime. Some dreams ain't worth the sleep. My parents struggling and they had lots of dreams. Seeing all they dream just collapse into defeat made me realize that who am I to dream? My story ain't sad, but I'm always in my bed. I'm always working harder for everything I have. Some people get it free, some people need to see, some people need to know it ain't easy as it seems. Dreams often get crushed because of the toxic and violent environment school system creates for girls who looks like me. Black and brown girls and gender nonconforming youth specifically are overly sexualized by school staff, which shows up in our dress code policies, which leads to push out. Push out is anything that prevents or gets in the way of a young person completing their education. Every day, schools like mine are opening themselves up to the conversations around social justice, but even so, we are still policed based on our identities and the way we choose to express ourselves. Because of this, I'm left to ask myself, are the system in place really serving to create a liberated space for Black and brown girls? When I was a sophomore, it was the first hot day of the year. My friends and I were very excited and planned to wear sundresses the next day. Although we were excited, we were also nervous because we knew we would cross paths with a teacher who has always prohibited students from showing too much skin. Crop tops, dresses was always on her radar. The next day, after second period, the teacher spotted me in my outfit and my heart dropped. I was immediately called to her office and told that I would have to change to pants from the lost and found, and if I refused, she would call my parents to leave work and come pick me up from school. Luckily, I brought a change of pants just in case. However, my parents were still contacted, and what became a frustrating experience for me at school also became an issue at home. I cried at the thought of having to compromise my confidence and self-expression. What a girl is wearing should not be more important than what she's learning, and yet my story is not uncommon. This is happening in schools all over the country, especially to Black girls. A recent study at Georgetown University found that Black girls are already considered less innocent than our white peers by the time we leave preschool. This continues into grade school, where Black girls like me are more likely to be suspended, expelled, hypersexualized, and arrested. In New York City, specifically, Black girls are 10 times more likely to receive harsh discipline compared to white students. Being a target of strict dress code policies and push-out has ignited me and others to speak against these forms of oppression. We use visual and performing arts to uplift our unique identities, to create space for healing, and to demand social change. This past year, I was involved with a healing circle called Sisters in Strength at Girls for Gender Equity. In many ways, the format Activism explored with my peers in school were connected to the tools we created as a community in SIS. As a part of our end of the year social action project, we created a zine or a handmade magazine. The zine was a representation of each of our individual personalities and included art to help the conversation around social justice like Push Out. We use music, poetry, and recipes for self-care in our zine to uplift young people and help them to feel like they're not alone. For us, creating a zine was not only a tool for activism, but helped us to learn more about ourselves and the ways that we can make an impact outside of Girls for Gender Equity. My dreams and demands is that school education system can embrace and uplift voices of Black and brown girls and gender nonconforming youth who has experienced push out using art-based curriculums, and Healers Justice has a platform for social change. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Lauren Rumpel, Principal Advisor for Gender and Development at UNICEF.
Thank you, Clara, and thank you, Rose, for your words and for your music. It's a true privilege to share this moment and this space with you. As Bella Abzug said, we have the words, and now we need the music, and that's you, Rose. Thank you for being unstoppable and unscripted. Today is International Day of the Girl, celebrating girls like you and all of you who are dreaming and achieving. In Mali, Fatoumata, 14 years, is working alongside almost 3,000 other young people, supported by UNICEF, to act as ambassadors for education in their communities, fighting for girls' access to quality education everywhere. In Syria, Bodor, 17 years old, is fighting for science and tech education in her school so that every girl can have a job. In her words, education and knowledge for girls means power, which in turn powers economies. Unfortunately, the data tells us that no matter where you grow up, life is worse if you're a girl. 1 out of 5 girls is still out of school, and in conflict-affected countries, girls are 2.5 times more likely to be out of school than boys. Almost 98 million girls who should be in secondary school are not. Girls miss out because their choices, as we've heard today, radically constrict as they get older. Pervasive and harmful norms about what girls should be and should be doing limit their options. We work in around 150 countries, and we see, as healthcare professionals, educators, protection advocates, that suddenly girls start disappearing as they reach adolescence. In our schools, girls become absent. In our clinics, girls are no longer attending wellness checkups. In innovation spaces and girl-friendly spaces, girls no longer attend. Where are they? They're doing chores. They're helping their families. And every 3 seconds, a girl under 18 is getting married. This single act interrupts her schooling and her ability to make choices about her body and her life. On the big picture, we know that as development professionals, policymakers, and funders, that just a fraction of funding goes to education and ending violence against girls and women. I want to see more resources for girls and more girls influencing resources and decisions, just like you are today. Responsibility for change should not rest heavily on your shoulders. It is our responsibility as duty bearers to take action. Inspired by you, by your music, we must stand up for your rights, defend your freedom and the world's future. We must stand next to you as you speak boldly. And more importantly, and if I could get up, Rose, I would jump behind you right this moment. We're here to lift up your voices and stand behind you. More than 1 billion girls younger than 18 are poised to seize the future. Invest in them. Unscripted and unstoppable. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words. We are for Rose.
We are for Rose.
We are with Rose.
We are with Rose.
And I was like, what is this? Y'all, I thought I had appendicitis.
I don't remember my first period.
What?
Really?
You don't remember?
Oh my God.
With the person sitting beside you, take the next 15 seconds to talk about the time you got your first period.
Oh, okay, everyone. Well, I have a story from Nepal. Nepalese girls are facing problems from social evils and even through menstruation. Oh, we are with girls. We are for girls. Okay, everyone. Well, I just have a story from Nepal. It turns out Nepalese girls are facing problems from social evils and even through menstruation, which is a natural process. Girls in Nepal have to stay in a cow shed or an outer house for 15 to 20 days during their first period. They also are forbidden to look at sunlight and men for 15 to 20 days during their period. And they are forbidden to enter kitchens or temples during menstruation. Imagine your life. Can you imagine your life in a cow shed without sunlight for 4 days?
I feel lucky that I was able to attend school during my first menstruation. But I feel unlucky for all the girls of my age who are suffering from this problem. I still remember.
It was the 3rd day of my period. I was getting late for school, and mistakenly I entered the kitchen. My grandma told me to get out from the kitchen, and I was late, so I didn't argue. But in the afternoon when I returned, I saw hundreds of utensils were washed and dried out in the sun. I asked my grandma, what's going on?
Made the utensils in the kitchen impure, so I'm washing them to make them pure again.
I was stunned. I said, if so, then I'm stepping on the land, which is connected to our world, then that means the whole world is impure, isn't it?
Don't close my eyes on these days. My eyes are not going to make the sun disappear. I want every girl in the universe to face the sun and move toward their dreams. I want them to be a dawn, not a dusk. I want them to rise like the sun and not hide behind clouds.
I have a story from the USA. Whoosh! That's the sound of one of the best sanitation inventions flushing, the toilet. Toilets seem basic, but only 1/3 of the world's population has them. I've never thought about sanitation until one day when I was talking to my mom about her childhood. She grew up in a village in India and wasn't satisfied with the sanitation. My mom wouldn't use the washroom for days in her childhood because she didn't like them. I thought it would be different when I went to India, but even I wasn't satisfied with the sanitation. I soon learned that only 44% of people have access to clean bathrooms. I knew that this is a problem for girls like me in school. When a girl gets her period, for instance, she'll have to miss school for a couple of days. Over time, the days add up. Girls are falling behind because of the days that they've been missing. Furthermore, a bathroom can be a place to spread germs. Every girl goes to the bathroom in school about once a day. During this time, the girls touch the same stuff, like bathroom locks and taps. If another girl is sick and touches these too, she can infect many people. Sanitation isn't a privilege, it's a right. If girls are denied their health rights, they will not have a life left to live. Now I'd like to introduce Cecilia from Save the Children to talk about her activism for health and sanitation for girls.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Cecilia. I'm 16 years old. I am from northern Malawi. I became passionate about these issues after I noticed that a lot of girls in my area lacked information on sexual reproductive health and faced health challenges, but are not able to speak about them. Today, I will talk about health issues that affect girls where I live in Rumpi district, which is in northern part of Malawi, in the southern part of Africa. The area has a population of 8,856, of which 56% are youth aged between 10 to 24 years, and I'm one of them. Some of the health issues that affect girls in my area include early marriages, teenage pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, as well as HIV/AIDS, lack of sexual reproductive health information and services. According to recent statistics, 27% of teenage girls in my community get pregnant. Teenage pregnancies are mostly due to girls indulging in risky sexual behaviors such as unprotected sex. Most girls get into such behaviors due to lack of parental support. That turns into having sex in exchanging for material things. When these girls fall pregnant, men are forced into early marriage. Early marriages constitute about 16% of marriages in my area. Contributing factors to early marriages are interlinked. Some are poverty, school dropout, and culture of lobola, which is a bride price. Some parents use this as a way of generating income and end up marrying off their younger daughters prematurely. How sad. Sexually transmitted infections and HIV/AIDS is another issue faced by girls back home. 4% of girls in Malawi are HIV positive, while only 1% of boys in the same age group are HIV positive. Another health issue is lack of sexual reproductive health information and services. My community is large, but has only one government health center and a few NGOs working in the area. This makes it impossible for all young girls to get sexual reproductive health information and services that they need. It is because of this that we have a life skills youth club at our school aimed at sharing sexual reproductive health services amongst the youth. But there is good news. Despite the challenges, girls in my area still show potential to do better. Some girls still remain in school. Some girls who cannot walk long distances go for safe boarding. Some girls are taking leadership roles in youth clubs, and I'm one of the leaders at our club. My advocacy work helped in addressing these girl health issues. As an advocate for youth sexual reproductive health rights trained by Save the Children in 2018, I participated in commemoration of the Day of African Child this year. And with my poem, I advocated for keeping girls in school and the need for the elimination of harmful cultural practices to the girl. In early 2019, I advocated for the same to local leaders through a speech I delivered during awareness campaign that was conducted at my school. Together with my schoolmates, I encouraged young girls who dropped out of school so far to our back, and we want to reach out to more so that by December, we want to have more than 10 young girls back to school. I also talk with school authorities to approach NGOs who can help girls access sanitary pads for free and to construct sanitary facilities for girls at our school. I am hopeful that my advocacy work will be successful and the future generation of girls who have raised teenage pregnancies will be educated, empowered, and will contribute to the development of my country, Malawi, and the whole world. Policymakers and civil society have to empower girls to advocate for their rights. They must meaningfully include recommendations from girls when planning programs. They must develop programs that support the girl child. For example, construction of hostels with sanitary facilities in secondary schools, foreigners who live far from schools. To my peers, we have to work together as a group. Together we stand, and divided we fall. We have to speak for girls that are voiceless and vulnerable. We have to stand up and demand services that promote girls' empowerment. Thank you for your attention. May God bless you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Now I'd like to introduce His Excellency Minister Paul Duclos, Chargé d'Affaires from the Permanent Mission of Peru to the United Nations. Please turn your volume up on your devices to hear the translation.
Thanks, Ria, for your valuable inputs. Thanks, Cecilia, for you are an inspiration for all of us. Lo sentimos muy agradecidos.
We are very grateful indeed to participate for yet another year in this initiative which recognises and encourages the efforts undertaken by girls to create a fairer world. I wish to congratulate all girls that are here with us this year on their leadership and proactive spirit. I would invite you to continue fighting to ensure that your interests, aspirations and needs are treated with ever-increasing importance in decision-making processes. That's important because your opinions and decisions are important and contribute to creating sustainable and inclusive policies. Unfortunately, in spite of efforts at an international level, many girls across the globe continue to face grave challenges and countless forms of injustice. One of those is inadequate access to drinking water and sanitation. In 2015, it was estimated that more than 2 billion persons, that's to say around a quarter of the global population, did not have access to water services. An even more alarming statistic emerged when access to sanitation was examined. More than 4.5 billion people, 60% of the global population, did not have access to such services. That has an impact on food security and on the opportunity for many families to access education. For that reason, states committed to SDG number 6 of Agenda 2030. This goal reaffirms the human right to drinking water and sanitation, to better hygiene, and to sufficient, affordable and nutritious food. This Agenda 2030 also recognises the importance of mainstreaming gender across the board to achieve our ultimate goal of leaving no one behind. In Peru, we recognise that the management of water resources has a profound impact on the lives of people. In rural areas, women and female teenagers are often those responsible for collecting water and those responsible for administering it for domestic or agricultural use. Consequently, my country has sought to ensure their active participation in designing policies, targeting and managing this resource. I wish to conclude by reiterating Peru's firm commitment to ensure that all of you, girls, enjoy a safe, stable and happy environment in which no girl encounters obstacles to her development aspirations and the fulfillment of her dreams. As I always say to my daughter, there are no limits for you. Many thanks.
Thank you so much for your words. We are with Cecilia. We are for Cecilia.
Today is the day where we can yell out loud that we are all girls proud. End of the day, we shine like stars, overcoming all our scars. In the end, let life be the stage and you the singer.
Gambide de benesh tam wala big soti mega much no mawi danech Gambide de benesh tam wala big soti machno la bora maroptinej Gina bora maroptinej tanki sotelina nojsi hula sis hamo we ya hey yo we ya hey hi ya ya we oh hey hi ya we oh hey hi ya ya we oh hey hi ya we oh hey hi ya we oh hey hi ya ya we oh hey hi ya hey yo tahoe.
As the sun illuminates the sleeping skies and bids goodbye to a lilac night, a little girl dreams with her eyes shut tight, and she dreams of a beautiful day.
Her dreams are made of a magical mist. There's fairy dust woven through her golden wrist. For years, she's been denied, but now it's her turn. She picks up her books and begins to learn.
She travels to caves with glittering floors. She is caressed by the winds of 1,000 moors. She observes the universe work from afar. Black holes, light rays, sound waves, and stars.
There are flowers sewn into both her lungs, lyres in the throat so beautifully strung. Her mind is brimming, her thoughts are swimming. Twilight whispers as the day starts dimming.
All around the world, little girls go to sleep. Though their eyes are shut, their dreams run deep. The dreams of all the wonders that lie in the world, and they dream of a beautiful day.
To be a real girl isn't easy. You must make your whole book an essay. Wake up early, sleep late. The soft-hearted no longer survives in that place. You need to be secure and be sure. Gather cow dung. Use it in 2 ways. The supper will be done. The house will be warm. The floor needs to be nurtured. I don't want to scare you. Go there. You'll find nature because that's where it lies. You only get your space at the Reed Dance Club. You will get your joy, and you'll get to enjoy your moments here. This space is a steal that can't be stolen. It gives you the right and responsibility and restores humility. Grass skipping ropes, plastic balls, hide and seek. Enjoy those games only at school. These girls are not empty vessels. They don't hold grudges or give revenge. They only want to raise the girl. So, find those old ladies. Find the nature. Find your space. And be resilient.
I'd like to welcome back Sophia from Earth Guardians to talk about her activism from climate and land rights.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be able to share some thoughts with you today, but first, I would just like to acknowledge all of you beautiful and strong girls gathered for this event. It is such an empowering feeling to have all of us gathered here today and sharing our stories creatively and verbally. I'm an environmental rights and Indigenous rights activist, and I take a strong stand against the fossil fuel industry. However, today I'm here to share from an Indigenous perspective that there is reason to be concerned about the safety of Indigenous girls around the world and to speak about how we can do something about it. First, it's important to understand the Indigenous worldview that everything is related. We cannot talk about Indigenous girls as if we exist in isolation. We cannot talk about our families, our communities, our ancestors, the waters, the lands, and all who call them home without talking about ourselves. What affects us as Indigenous girls also affects our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, our grandmothers, our clans, and all future generations. What affects them affects us. We all carry this powerful feminine energy that we share collectively, but we also share that with this earth. That is why Indigenous peoples around the world refer to the land that I'm standing on right now as Mother Earth. Mother Earth not only provides us for our needs, but has birthed all of us. And as girls, no matter what we come from or what language we speak, we can relate and connect deeply to Mother Earth
because we too are future mothers, grandmothers, and leaders. As Indigenous girls and women, our primary traditional roles are as life givers and water protectors. This role does not exclude our other important traditional roles, like medicine pickers, healers, leaders in our matriarchal societies. However, we have that ability to create life just like the earth. And because of this connection and how we exist in relation to everything, the destruction of the earth globally is devastating to Indigenous girls. We cannot birth our future generations into a world that does not respect our collective mother, our first mother, Mother Earth. We cannot bring life onto this earth if our air is unbreathable, our land is destroyed, and our water is poisoned. Leaders cannot pretend to be feminists, to defend and respect girls' rights while permitting our first mother, Mother Earth, to be desecrated. If Mother Earth is treated as a commodity, we are also at risk of being viewed as a commodity, and our traditional roles cannot be fulfilled. We cannot heal ourselves or others if our medicines are contaminated. We cannot be warriors if there is nothing left to protect. We cannot lead in a world that has been destroyed by people and corporate entities that have refused to respect Mother Earth. As Indigenous girls, we respect the sacred aspects of life because of our traditional roles and ways of life. Our culture is inseparable from our lands, and that's why you'll find girls like me, along with my brothers and sisters, on the front lines, all over the world, protecting the land that we love. Indigenous girls today are struggling to grow up in healthy communities, still suffering from deep trauma. Acknowledging the deep connection Indigenous peoples have to their land can show how past events have left devastating trauma in our communities. Many Indigenous peoples were separated from their traditional territories with forced relocations of reserve lands. Families were separated as children were stolen from communities and sent to government-run residential schools. And some communities were further separated from their traditional ways due to non-consensual resource extraction projects that have ruined their territories indefinitely. For Indigenous girls today, these are our realities. Our situation is especially dangerous, with sex trafficking and rape occurring at the man camps set up as pipeline workers come onto our territories. These traumatic events are not new, and they are worsening. It is a crisis, and we are in a crisis. As Indigenous girls, we watch these acts of genocide that directly impact us in our everyday lives. Our relatives still bear the scars and the trauma, and we still feel their pain. In Canada, a national inquiry into missing murdered Indigenous women and girls was recently launched into what they're calling a national emergency, and found that Indigenous girls are 12 times more likely to go murdered or go missing than any other demographic group in Canada. The inquiry concluded that Canada is responsible for committing genocide against Indigenous peoples that is still continuing today. Take a moment for that to sink in. As Indigenous girls, our health and our very existence is more at risk than ever, as our communities have suffered and are suffering by acts of genocide. To heal and thrive, we need our medicines, our connections to our lands and waters in order to fulfill our traditional roles as life givers. But these are increasingly at risk as we stand on the front lines of climate change and genocide. What can we do about this? Because these issues are so complex, it can discourage us from doing anything at all. My advice is to start small. Learn about the issues in your community. Talk to your elders. Talk to people from different backgrounds. Think of some simple solutions that you can take action on. Find others who want to take action with you. Use your gifts, like your voice, your art, your music, whatever it may be, to express your truth at every chance you can get. Our voices are stronger together than apart. We will need to take a strong stand to change the way things are and shift over to renewable energies, and this will make a lot of people uncomfortable. Regardless, we must do it to ensure the safety of Indigenous girls and the earth we protect. Above all else, please take care of yourselves and take time to reconnect with the land. Remind yourselves why it is sacred and important to protect it. It is time to rise up and fight for what you love and who you love, as if there is no tomorrow, because there might not be. Thank you, Walaliot.
Thank you, Sophia. Now I'd like to introduce Her Excellency, Ambassador Louise Blaise, Ambassador and Deputy Permanent Representative of Canada to the United Nations.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Ria. And thank you, Sophia. Thank you for having contributed this very important reality and point of view. Yes, Canada still has a lot to do. Yes, Canada is not perfect, but today I am here struck by everything we've heard, but I'm also full of hope. I'm full of hope because of the future that you carry in you, because of what you're doing to inspire us. And I just wanted to say that
here at the UN, I want you to know that so many of us are fighting for you. We're fighting for words, we're fighting for commas, but they matter, words matter. And I want you to be empowered by knowing that what you have done today by coming here is given us a gift, but as well a responsibility. We are the people now making decisions, the decisions that are affecting you. You're making a difference at the local level. But now you have elevated those voices and you've brought them here to the heart of globalism, the heart of multilateralism, so that we can hear you. And we have heard you. But today, I'm not truly the ambassador, because today, Sophie is the ambassador, and she is here with me to share the message from Canada. It is her voice that we will hear on behalf of Canada today. And it is my real great honor to cede her the floor and to thank her for being here, and to thank Plan International for making it possible. Sophie, tu as la parole pour le Canada.
I see myself as the result of my mother's and all the women before her's struggles and trauma and experiences. A young woman and a young girl in today's society is the result of her community, the result of their experiences, the result of the struggles that they have had to go through. And as such, it is our global responsibility to act in an effort to protect future generations from the same mistakes, from the same poor experiences, from the same instances of sexual violence and disrespect of our land. I am so humbled to be here today, and I am so thankful to be in a room surrounded by such powerful women, by such powerful young girls, and by such powerful leaders. You are leaders of change. You are leaders of today just as much as you are of tomorrow. And I only hope to be able to have the same influence that you do now. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency and Sophia. We are with Sophia. We are for Sophia.
Today, you've heard the stories of real girls from around the world. We hope that you now understand what it will take to achieve equality for girls, but we can't do it alone. The only way for us to push through the gaps and obstacles in achieving equality is by working with girls for girls.
To the decision makers and UN officials, it's been almost 25 years since the first focus on the girl child in Section L of the Beijing Platform for Action, but you have yet to actualize girls' rights. It's no longer enough to just mention us. Bringing girls to the table is no longer a request, but a requirement.
The girls and their allies. We need to hold decision makers accountable for following through on substantial representation, meaningful girl-centered programs, and regulations that protect our rights. We need to stand up for ourselves and each other by calling out oppression and damaging norms in school, at home, our communities, and in government. If we don't, we will continue with generations of inequality.
We reject this. We are Generation Equality. The world is not just ours tomorrow, it is ours today. The time is now for all of us UN leaders, allies, and girls to show that we are with girls, for girls.
We are with girls. We are with girls. We are for girls. We are for girls.
I am a girl. You see me.
And you think you know me. You think I don't have much to say because of my shy personality?
You think you can boss me around because I'm polite.
You think I'm an easy target for your rudeness because I smile and look agreeable?
You think you can treat me like a child because my clothes are appropriate for my age?
You think I'm weak because I show my emotions.
You think I'm not smart because I need extra help?
You think you can touch my hair just because you think it's pretty.
You think I'm uncool because I won't join you when you use bad language.
You think I'm missing out because I don't go to the hair salon to get my hair styled.
You are wrong. My true friends will get to know me.
They will not use my kindness against me, but instead offer me true friendship because I am worth it. Who am I, you ask?
I am strong. I'm the only one to stand up to the after-school bully.
I am brave. I fought through my fears of failure to present my Bronze Award presentation in front of hundreds of parents, troop leaders, and Girl Scouts.
I am reliable. You can always count on me to get the job done.
I am intelligent. I'm smarter than you give me credit for and finished the 6th grade with an A average. How about that?
I am passionate. I care deeply about everything I do.
I am powerful.
I can do anything I set my mind to.
I believe I can fly.
My name is Daenerys.
Emily.
Dana.
Ariani.
Ivy. Rhea.
Adriana.
Clara.
And I am a girl.
And we are with girls, for girls. Have a great night. Get home safe.